Hello and welcome. It's a gorgeous sunny morning and I am going to be talking about what I'm up to with my knitting and my knitting plans, because we all like a spot of knitting, don't we? I've got recent knitting books, things that are on the needles, things that I plan to have on the needles, you name it, it's all woolly, and obviously a tiny little bit of sewing because the knits go with the sewing. Right, so before we start today, I just wanted to talk about the blouse that I'm wearing. I made this last night. I don't sew often evenings. I'm normally teaching, and when I'm not, I'll do my knitting. But I got really fixated on making this, and I enjoyed it so much I just kept going until this morning when I just had to do a bit of hand sewing with button loops and buttons. So what it is, it's the Victoria blouse by Fibre Mood Patterns. Very different to my usual style, but I was just absolutely drawn to it. I love, it's kind of like the high Victorian frill neck collar. It's got this lovely yoke, and I normally steer away from the gathered yokes because I think they accentuate your boobs, they kind of flow off, but this one works really well. And then it's got these beautiful sleeves, which I think I might change to be a little bit wider and do a deeper cuff. I might, with a narrower, deeper cuff on them, because I will be making this again. And it does up with a back closure. It's got a placket on the back and it's done up with a back button. And then it's in this absolutely stunning fabric. I don't know if I put it up closer, if you can actually see it. I hope you can. It's called Air Crepe from Fabric Godmother, and it's got like a pale sort of blush pink in it, maroony coloured flowers, little green stalks, and it's cream, and then with these grey, silvery grey brush strokes through, so it's quite a 40s style fabric. It's beautiful to handle. I absolutely love sewing with it. I've had it sat there for ages because I didn't want to make the wrong choice with it, and then I just thought, no, I want to make this blouse. And I can see this, today I'm wearing this over jeans, and then I will put a cardigan and brooches, whatever, over it. But I can also see it underneath my jumper dresses. I've got a lovely grey velvet belt, so I can see that over that with some wide leg trousers, wool trousers, so I can sort of mix and match it up with lots of different ways with layering. But today I'm wearing it in quite a contemporary way with my skinny jeans. Well, they're skinny-ish because they're actually 1950s jeans, but I think to the untrained eye they would think they're modern jeans. Right, on with the knitting. So this goes very, very nicely, which I will be wearing it with today, my Anouk cardigan, my little V-neck cardigan, which I knitted in Aran wool. This is from Untangled Knots, which I bought before Andy shut the shop, sadly, but I got the pattern. So this was in a drops, of which I have the other equivalent. It's a drops Nepal, and it's an Aran weight, and it's a mix of, I believe, wool and alpaca. I love the feel of alpaca or merino. It's pure wool. I always find a bit scratchy. So I absolutely loved knitting that. That was a really quick knit, unusual for me. I think that was just over a week, and I never knit anything that quickly. But it's on 5mm needles, so it is knit quick. And the other knit that I'm working on at the moment, which I'll show you in a moment, I ran out of wool because it was wool that was destined for another project. I'm sure all you knitters out there relate to this. It was destined for another project, and then I just thought, no, I actually want to make the, what's it called, the Soda Pop from Poison Girls, the jumper. That was what this pink from the Anouk cardigan, this was actually destined for the jumper and became a cardigan. So I've got a bit of that left over, which will become a scarf or something. So I've got this lovely toffee coloured wool here. This is Drops Alaska, which is, oh well, that's 100% wool, but actually this feels nice. So this is on 5mm. So that became the Soda Pop, and I hadn't got quite enough wool because it was going to be something else. So I needed 3 more balls. Well, to get free postage and to kind of make your purchase worthwhile, I think it's silly not to put in the wool for the next project, isn't it? So hence I thought I'll make another Anouk, because the V-neck cardigan, I'm wearing that pink one loads. So I got this beautiful, it's called chalk. I do love creams. I mean, if you put it by a cream wool, it's very different to a cream wool. Sometimes I worry it's moving towards beige, which I don't do, but no, it's definitely a chalkier colour. So I think I got that wool last Friday. So yeah, about 6 days ago, 5-6 days ago. So I cast it on immediately. So this is where we're at with the sleeves separated off. So it's a knit from the top down raglan. So I'm not worrying about my narrow shoulder adjustment. I've got terribly narrow shoulders, and I was having a conversation with Lizzie at Killer Kitsch. We were talking about knitting and keeping our hands busy, you know, and it doesn't matter if we haven't got enough room for the knitwear or the clothes, but we want to keep our hands busy. That's why we do this. We love creativity. And she was saying about, you know, narrow shoulder adjustments, you know, and them being quite common for a lot of people. And I said, I love the raglan because you don't have to do that. So I've separated the sleeves off, and then I will knit the rest of the body down in the round and then do the button band and the sleeves. So I'm loving how that's coming out. Now back to the narrow shoulder adjustment. I am really good at fitting with clothes. That's why I teach it. I made it my business to spend years learning the skills, and then I love to transfer them and share them with other people. So I know what I'm doing there. With knitting, I've been knitting for about 20 years, but I just, you know, haven't got my head around all the sizing. I've asked various people, and then the penny dropped asking, because I've got a lot of knitters who I teach sewing to, and people who spin their own wool, they darn it, they design patterns. So I've got some very talented knitters in my groups. And I was saying about the narrow shoulder adjustment, what do I actually do? Because obviously if the pattern states for it, if you can see my hand is to go out here and you need it to come in by an inch, or I mean in my case about 1.5 inches, 2 inches often, for things not to be hanging off past my shoulders. She said what you do is you work more decreases, and I thought that absolutely makes sense. You work the same amount of rows, but you would be, by the decreases, coming in further. So if you're working more decreases, then you would divide that over the rows you're doing. So rather than say decrease every 6th row, you might be decreasing every 3rd row. So you have to do a little bit of maths, and I suppose the same for increasing out, you know, you would do less decreases. So I hope that makes sense, because Lizzie was saying people probably find that useful. We had a nice chat about all sorts of things. So that was that. I've got all these things in front of me on the table that I want to talk about and show, so I'm sort of thinking, which do I go to now? So I did mention the Soda Pop jumper that I'm on and why I had to get some more wool, didn't I? So I'm alternating that with knitting the Anouk in the chalk. And yes, there are some other knits in my bag, but I'm just getting fixated with these at the moment. So this is the Soda Pop so far. I don't know if you're going to see it all. So I've got this sleeve is waiting, like a raglan again. This sleeve's waiting to be done. I've picked up this sleeve. I think it goes this way round actually. So this will be it. I loved how on Amy, who designs these patterns, the neckline stands out like this, you know, like a 60s turtleneck. I just cannot get mine to do that. It wants to ping back in. So if anyone's got any tips on how you stop that, I did a stretchy cast off rather than the crochet loop cast on method. I've done everything, but it just wants to ping in. So I'm loving it in this toffee colour, and I did a slightly deeper rib band at the bottom. They've got very deep rib bands on the sleeves, and rather than doing, I can't remember if it's called like a popcorn, like in crochet, it's popcorn, but I didn't like the effect of that bobble, so I'm using the stitch effect. Can you see that if I put that up closer? The stitch effect that's on the Blondie cardigan, which is another one of Poison Girls patterns, which is literally on a knit row doing a purl instead, and then obviously they're evenly spaced, so they're every 3rd and 7th row, plus remembering all your decreases, increases, or raglans or whatever. So there's a lot to remember as you're going along, but I'm really enjoying this one, and I might get somewhere of it. In this country we often get a cold snap, even April can be cold, so I should get some wear out of that one, and if not, it'll get lots of wear next year. It's going to be a really cosy knit. And while I was saying that, there was something I was thinking, oh, I'll just tell you about that, but it's gone from my brain. Something else I've picked up I haven't got on very well with. This is in a lovely soft pink alpaca, and I couldn't find any 5.5 needles in my modern, so I'm using my vintage ones, which I don't like to use too often because they can be quite fragile and snap as you're knitting, but they are beautiful. I just keep them in a jar up there. It's I think it's a clothes jar. It's an Australian clothes jar, so I keep them up there just because they look nice. And I have, and this isn't very pleasant, but in my old house I didn't have, I had problems with the toilet, and if it got blocked, the only thing could solve it would be a really big fat knitting needle, and oh gosh, bang myself in the eye. And I have to admit I have sacrificed a couple of vintage ones that way, which is really, really scandalous, but we needed to go to the loo. And it wasn't me that was blocking the loo, I will just add that. Yes, I'm a good girl. Right, on to what I want to be knitting. I see this all over Instagram and I think YouTube. There's always knit alongs. It's called the rainbow jumper. Beautiful, beautiful jumper. Yeah, and the model, I think she's called Peggy something. But she was like the it girl of knitting patterns. And I absolutely love this jumper. I have seen someone mention, rather than doing it on the smaller needles and on full ply, knit it on bigger needles and double knit, you know, it comes up better and make it a bit longer because it comes up quite short. And as a tall lady of 6 foot, I don't want things coming up short. So yes, I'll look at that. But it's choosing the colours. I think it's a main base colour and then 5 extra colours. And I see so many lovely combinations and then I can't decide because I just want every colour, and then I find it really, really hard to make my mind up. So that's why I haven't got around to doing that one at all. And then the other things in my plans, I really want to knit Fair Isle cardigan, yeah, 40 style Fair Isle cardigan. I love Fair Isle with florals, you know, mixing tweeds, herringbone tweeds, and mixing, matching it up. That very Mitford sisters, you know, English aristocrat look. I love that look. So I will get on to doing the Fair Isle. The only Fair Isle I've done is doing a beret and gloves. And when I do the, what's it called? You know, when you bring it along the back, it's got a name, floats. When you bring the wool along the back, which I can do in intarsia, no problem, but in the Fair Isle, I was just doing it wrong and it was bunching it up and it was becoming spongy. So I think I need to knit some swatches and really practice on my Fair Isle, but that's another plan. Just more colour work. When I started knitting 20 years ago, I really mainly knitted things for my daughters who were, I mean, Millie's 20 now, so you can guess she was a baby then, and Rosie was 18 months older, so she was a toddler. So I knitted lots of things for them, and they were in tarsia. I did an amazing cardigan covered in butterflies and flowers. It was like a sort of a tapestry of all of this colour going on, because I got really bored really quickly. I wanted to be, rather than just knitting the same colour backwards and forwards, I wanted the challenge of and something visually stimulating. And the butterflies and flowers cardigan, I was knitting it for Rosie, and I think she was 3 when I was knitting it for her. I still have it somewhere. And my husband at the time said, you're not going to like this. This is before I learned that you put things up on high shelves in cupboards out of the way of small children, like I do with the cats. And Rosie had obviously thought it was really lovely unravelling the cardigan, and I had done a hell of a lot. And I think after I had my meltdown, I started again and I finished it. And yeah, I didn't stab her with the knitting needles either. I was a nice mother. So I used to love doing all that kind of work, and I've got into making more single colour pieces that will work with my wardrobe, because I love, I know this isn't such a bold print, but I love bold prints, and I just want cardigans and jumpers that will work with my wardrobe. But I want to get back into some colour work as well. Did I tell you what this was that I was knitting? I think I held it up and then I totally forgot. Apologies. This is the Elsa hood that I'm planning on knitting. It's Aran. The Elsa hood is by Deighton, so you know it's one that comes with a pixie hood and it's scarf. I don't know if I'd put it up as a pixie scarf hood, but it'd be helpful because when I go out for walks by the coast, I always get really bad earache, and if I've forgotten a hat, then I can handily dandly pop that over my head. So this will just get done as and when. See, yeah. So that's another like easier one on the needles. Oh, and talking of easier on the needles, something amazing happened this week. My oldest daughter Rosie, who's 23 this year, God, time's going on. She had an operation last week to remove a lump from her breast, which I chose not to talk about all over social media and whatever, but obviously I'm mentioning it here. So we're waiting on the results for that. But so she's been off work, home here, recovering. She was doing really well, and poor love has now got a cold on top of it, which is not fair at all. But she's doing really well, and she's never knitted. Millie knits, my youngest daughter. She loves knitting. And I think Rosie thought we were just a pair of old grannies knitting. And so when she announced last week, I'd like to knit because I've got all this time, and she'd done her whole puzzle. She's got a canvas to do some painting because she's a great artist. And she said, I'd like to knit. And Millie was over visiting. I think our mouths, our jaws sort of hit the floor. But she said, no, nothing major, just I want to do a black scarf. So we decided, you know, garter stitch was the way to go for her. 5mm needles because it'll knit quickly. So I went and got some wool for her. I taught her how to cast on, do garter stitch. I mean, she sussed it, you know, within about 10 minutes, and away she goes. So she's currently knitting a scarf, which we never thought. But she said, you know, don't get too excited. I will not be taking this up as a hobby. And I might end up finishing the scarf for her, who knows. But yeah, it's rather lovely that, ironically, she's sitting there knitting in the evenings while I'm knitting. So who would ever have known? Now, I wanted to tell you about the knitting books that are my new knitting books. Some, you know, from Christmas. This top one here, this is my pile of them. This top one here, Vintage Knitwear. That was a birthday present. My birthday's 29th of December. So my mum, I just said, could you get me that book? So she did. And then, not long, I think, yeah, might have been around Christmas time, I got this fabulous book, Tyrolean. I have to look at Timeless Tyrolean Knitwear. It's by Linda, and Linda is Knitting for Victory on Instagram. I'll put the links. This is an absolutely marvellous book, and just so exciting that such a lovely lady brought out her book, and we followed the journey of her talking about the great excitement of it. So I will give you some overheads as well for these books. And then my exciting one that I got a couple of weeks ago is A Stitch in Time, the volume 1. I've got volume 2, but this is volume 1, which was getting harder and harder to find. Many years ago, and I'm talking, yeah, well over 20 years ago, so around when I was starting to knit, a friend of mine, Jilly, I met her this way. She opened up the most marvellous knitting shop in Bungay, and it was a lovely old-fashioned shop, you know, with a round window, and it was beautiful how she did her shop. And she had a room at the back where knit and natters were going on, and often I'd go in there and my daughters could sit on the spinny chairs, and Jilly would give them biscuits to eat while I'd look at the wool, and it was a lovely, lovely shop. Anyway, when she opened up, she had the Stitch in Time books, and I remember looking through and just adored the photography, and I was so inspired by them, but thought, I'm way off these books at the moment. The me now wishes I'd got the damn books, because I didn't know they were going to be so hard to get. Every time I put a search in for this one, it was coming up as either £300, £500. I mean, they were originally like about 28 quid. So, you know, I thought this isn't going to happen. And then in one of my beginner sewing classes just for Christmas, I've got another prolific knitter, and this lady only does blue. She only wears blue. She just deviates slightly, but it's mainly blue. And she told me that she'd got this book that I would love, and I said, oh, please bring it, I just want to look through it, to which she did, and then she let me borrow it for a couple of weeks. And I thought, after she'd said to me, I only got it, I love the photography, but I'm not knitting it, I thought, I wonder if she might sell it to me, but I thought she probably won't, it's too lovely a book. And then my fabulous man did a search and found this one for £10 on World Books. There was only one copy, bought it straight away, had to have it. So I am thrilled to have this book. It's been a bit of a journey to get here. And even if you don't knit the things in it, the photography and the styling, the colour ideas are just fabulous. But I've put aside some more knits that I want to do. So I will show you through those lovely books and the projects that I'm interested in doing from them. The first book I want to look at is A Stitch in Time, Volume 2. And something that's been on my radar for quite a long time is this jumper here. I absolutely love it. It's called the Golden Eagle Ladies Jumper. And I've got the wool for it, so I'll just put them over here so you can see the colours that I've chosen. So rather than going for this lilac-y colour and the darker more to sort of burgundy, sort of magenta burgundy, I've chosen black. It's like a warm pink, blush pink and a cream. So they're the ones that I fancy making mine in. So that's added to the list of to-dos. And I was also talking about my urge to do something in Fair Isle. So just trying to get to the post-it notes, the page is sticking. This is the cardigan I really fancy. I really love the colour it's in. Here's the original, the jumper for the twin set. I do love the colour, but I haven't decided on colours. It's just an idea in my head at the moment. So that's those from this fabulous, fabulous book. So let's move that to one side. Next book I want to look at, let's go backwards. Stitch in Time, Volume 1. Really, I just want to show you there are projects I want to do. It's just such a beautiful book. I love the photography in this book. I absolutely love this jumper. I mean, look at those sleeve details on the cuffs. It's just beautiful. The pearl buttons going up. I love the rounded yoke, and this would work for any age. You know, this is 30s style jumper, but you know, you could mix and match it in to be quite contemporary. Not that I probably will, but one day in my life that may get made. And then let's flick through to the pages that I show. I mean, this book is just so lovely. Got all the old patterns that inspired the makes. Obviously they're all sized up to fit our bodies. This little jumper here I absolutely love. I think that would be quite a quick knit. Again, 30 star. I think that's beautiful. I love how the buttons come right down to the waistband there. And I'll just apologise, it's just quite cloudy here. I haven't got the lighting quite right, so I hope you can see everything okay. The colours they use for the projects in here are just absolutely glorious as well. I'm trying to get to the page. Where is it? It's hiding away. I'll show you those two. You'll see lots of other pages while I'm trying to get to where I want to go. I thought post-it notes would help, but they seem to be hindering me. Yeah, there's gloves and hats and there's underwear. There's all sorts in these books. You can knit loads. Let's keep flicking through. But even if I don't want to knit the projects, the colours give me really good ideas for the type of wool I might want to knit with. Here we go, Panelled Ladies Jumper. I love this. It's duck egg blue with that pretty skirt. I love the contrast. It gives you ideas. So lovely little spring weight jumper. And then the final one, I'm trying not to rip the pages as I show you what I want to show you. Come on. And then this one is called the Blackberry Stitch Cardigan. So really love this little cardigan. I wear cardigans a lot. They're great just to throw on. So another temptation is the marvellous Timeless Tyrolean Knitwear by Ivell, which I'll put the link and I'll put it down below for you. So this book is just absolutely fabulous. The photography, the background to the Tyrolean knits, the vintage inspiration. I think even if you didn't knit, you'd really enjoy this book for how lovely it is, how it's all laid out. And then Linda goes through some embroidery techniques and the knitting techniques and whatever, so everything's in close up. The photography is really, really clear. And I love how they've taken photographs, you know, how they've staged them all around the train set. So there's this first one, June Clyde Sets of Fashion. If I come in, can you see that lovely stitch there pulled in with the yarn? So I'm going to do something with that. I won't do the pom-pommy buttons, but I absolutely love that. And let's flick through to the next one. These colours, I do love this cardigan, but it's the pink with the green. Really, really sets it off for me. So come in closer for that one. And then what's the next one? There's so many that have inspired me in here, as you can see. And will I have enough life to knit all of these things, I wonder. Well, let's get to that next one. You'll see lots of other things. I just love this beret, the yellow blouse. The embroidery on this little cardigan reminds me of a lot of the embroidered tablecloths I have. It's just beautifully styled and yeah, just gorgeous. Isn't that one just delightful? I say divine, delightful, it is both. So where's my next post-it note? You'll see lots of other lovely, some I'm flicking past quite quickly, I'm afraid. You have to buy the book if you want to see more. This, I really have for a long time, I want to make like a sky bluey dress to wear with a burgundy cardigan. And so I just love these colours and I absolutely love this knit. So I do think this one will be on my list of things to knit. To show you, it's the vintage knitwear that my mum bought me. And there's a series with these vintage handbags, vintage fashion, vintage accessories. So let's start off with the Schiaparelli, her knitwear, which I saw in Paris, didn't I, a few weeks ago, which seems like almost wasn't there now. But she started off with this. She's no longer here. She didn't knit. She got somebody else to knit this for her, and it took a few tries to get these trompe l'oeil bow jumpers, of which there were several kind of designs. But they sold out. They really launched her. And then she did a knitted tube cap that's called the Mad Cap. That was copied loads and loads. You know, various other knitwear designs that she moved into. And this book is marvellous. It goes through from the 30s through to, I think it's the 80s or the 90s. So here we've got the Fair Isle again, the twin sets. This is just fabulous for inspiration. So this is the 30 section. Knitted swimwear, I'm not so sure. I think a bit saggy baggy when we got into the water. And then they do this sort of key looks, you know, for each of the decades. And when we move forwards to the 40s section, it seems to be more late 40s than actual 40s. So it sort of very merges very much with the 50s. I want to get, oh God, that's gorgeous on the other page. This picture is just absolutely gorgeous. I've wanted to embellish a cardigan with bead work. I did embroider all around the yoke once many years ago. I've struggled to find you know, original vintage knitwear like this. It's really, really hard to source, however much I've looked. So that is on the cards one day. I mean, just look at the work on these. It's just absolutely beautiful. And if I flick through to the back, you can see Gillian MacDonald. So yeah, avant-garde. So it goes through, you've got Vivienne Westwood, American Casual, yeah, 80s. And we've got the 70s and the 60s. So this is a really, really good book and a good series. So I hope you've enjoyed the flick through of my books. So that's me for today with all things knitty, yarny goodness. Chilly now, so I've popped on my lovely pink cardie to keep warm and then popping out to get some things done before I teach tonight. So thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed. As ever, I love sharing what I'm up to with you. Pop any comments below, anything that might help me, you know, for my question I asked earlier, which was about the solar pop neck. and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I love you joining me here and chatting. Please share and like, you know, all the usual caboodle. And until next time, have a lovely time sewing, crafting, knitting, whatever you're up to. Goodbye.